Hey everybody, welcome back here to A Place to Heal. I'm back again here with Andrew, and I'm very excited about what we're going to talk about today because as some of you know, my lungs were almost the ones that took me out, and if you even go back a year into my videos, you're actually going to see me gasping for air because I have COPD very, very bad. So when I got out of the hospital, it was, oh man, I struggled. And I started reading a bunch of books about Thich Nhat Hanh, and he was showing how he healed so many issues in his body simply by breathing correctly and slowing down his breathing. Now I did some research, and it says that 90% of people suffer from breathing problems. Is that true?
That's news to me. I know breathing is critical, and there's obviously a lot of people with breathing disorders directly, but breath fits into everything.
Yeah,
Oxygen is we talked about the water last week, and the centerpiece to that was the ability to convert the oxygen in water and create activated oxygen. So oxygen was the big catalytic piece of that water.
Right. And I'm always telling people, oxygenate your body, oxygenate your body.
And what's interesting is the inventor of that water mentioned that, he felt that you get much more oxygen if you could actually have it in the water as opposed to through breathing as far as detoxification, but he doesn't know about this.
Right. And I've done a lot of studying with a lot of people that say that the way that you breathe will actually change your whole facial cavity. It'll change if you have issues with your teeth. It's just phenomenal. The breathing is huge to your health.
Well, this started actually for me very pragmatically. I play saxophone. Been doing that since I was a kid, 10 years old, right. And used to be a professional musician. And every time I play a gig, I come home and my nervous system I would be like hard to sleep, and then in the middle of I was sleeping, and all of a sudden I'd have this biggest jolt.
Yeah.
And I call it like literally. So the breathing when you play sax, it's improper breathing. If you're a singer or a trombone player or whatever, you're over breathing, and we're going to get into that. Okay. So basically, it just totally whacks your whole nervous system.
Yeah. And
you're in this state like this, and you can't let go. Yeah. So what I would experience was that all of a sudden I had this incredible letting go, and it'd be like an electrical shock, and I feel like I was going to have a heart attack. Yeah. Now, as I got older, I started, and I was still playing the sax. I said, I want to keep playing sax. I got to do something. My wife went to Australia and studied something called, this is where I first learned about the Russian study of breathing. My wife went to Australia, and she studied Buteyko breathing. And so I knew about that, and she would work with people. And this is a system to teach you to breathe properly. Right. And I actually started doing some more research on some of the Russian teachers, and I'm lazy.
Yeah.
And I was looking for I joke, I'm not really that lazy. Right. But I realized that when you're stressed out, the practice became very difficult. And I saw that she had a hard time getting people to do it. Mm-hmm. It takes months to learn it. A lot of skill sets. So when I say breathe like a yogi for dummies, I'm really saying you want to do it the hard way or the easy way.
Yeah.
And the problem is anyone knows if you're stressed out, they say relax, like good luck.
And I'm a horrible breather, by the way.
Okay.
I'm horrible. I breathe with my mouth open. I mean the whole bit. And from what I've been seeing, I guess asthma has a lot to do with how you breathe, COPD, heart disease. Diabetes. Did you know that people with diabetes are the only ones that heavy breathe? It seems like epilepsy, even cancer, because we're not oxygenating the body. It's insane.
So let's get down. This is going to be a series of videos and let's nail this on the head, because this is so fundamental to anyone struggling with disease. If we can get this one starting principle across, it'll change your life and then learn practices. The reason people get sick is because they literally block the ability to receive the vital things they need. In Chinese medicine, they call that qi stagnation. But essentially, you go like this.
Right.
Now, a couple of things would happen if you went like this. Now, this is exaggeration. Due to stress,
Oh, I don't think so.
this is exaggeration.
All the time, I was like that. all
Now,
the
if you
time.
do this on a physical level and you can't get back to this, then literally all your structure starts to tighten up, connective tissue pulls, knees go out, hips go out. But on the breathing level, if you go like this and everything constricts and you have vasoconstriction, literally oxygen cannot come into the body. So how to relax, let go is the $1 million question. So this is one profound practice because it defeats the natural stress response. So the Russians studied breathing and they looked at the yogis. And the Buteyko is the gentleman's name, and on my blog, which is going to be posted.
Yeah, we're going to post it.
In fact, we should
below.
post it several times. Okay,
Yeah.
but if you go through the whole video, you're going to see
Yeah,
it. Go to the
breathing
end.
is very important.
So I refer, on my blog, you'll see I refer to a Russian site called normalbreathing.com. Now, this is the guy speaks broken English, and it's kind of heavy with material, but if you're into really getting a lot of deep information, please go to that site. I'm summarizing really in a simplistic form the key concepts here on this blog. So essentially what it comes down to is this. They discovered that one needs a proper balance between CO2 and oxygen. And the problem is most people think CO2 is what do you think CO2 is?
It's a gas, right?
Right, but what do most people think? Get rid of CO2, right?
Yeah, it's supposed
Right,
to.
exactly. CO2 is so important and so vital to working with oxygen. It is a beautiful gas. What CO2 does is several things, and it's called the Bohr effect. But essentially what it does causes the nerves to relax, vasodilation, the opening up of the blood vessels.
Right. Well, like the olden days where they used to get the bag and breathe
Right,
into the bag.
hyperventilate. But the problem is it's all CO2. So the key is here, and what we're going to go on is the balance. So when you overbreathe, you expel CO2. But there was three things I was going on about as far as the CO2. It causes the vasodilation and the nerves to relax. Again, obviously, if the nerves are relaxed, the blood vessels can open up. So what happens if you go from this to this? Imagine oxygen like trying to come in. Now the same amount of oxygen can go in more effectively.
Right, it's like trying to breathe through a straw.
So let's make the third point, but this is really critical. It also, he describes it as a taxi system. So if you need oxygen in your lungs, the CO2 actually directs the oxygen where to go. So if you're deficient in your legs, it's actually not only allowing you to receive more oxygen, but it's actually directing where you need it.
Wow.
So the yogis were breathing 2 to 3 times a minute. So what they discovered, what they were doing is essentially retaining more CO2 and effectively taking in way less oxygen, much more efficiently. Now, you know people that have all these lung disorders and they pump them full of oxygen.
Yes.
The reason they're still sick is because when they're in this state, it'll never get through.
Right, and that's very interesting because I have a lot of people that I see that are on oxygen like 24/7. They even sent me home with
It's like trying to pump. You're exactly right. It's like having if you ever had a garden hose and it pinches, good luck.
Yeah.
Turn up the volume. It'll blow the hose. It'll blow the hose. You'll get a stroke.
Are you guys getting that? Are you understanding that? I mean, you guys are. It's like right now. You're a pinched garden hose, and the oxygen is like turning up the volume, right?
So here's the thing. The key is that everyone pretty much, like you say, overbreathes because everyone's stressed out. So they tighten up and they overbreathe and they get rid of CO2, which is the opposite of what they need. They need to retain the CO2.
Right.
So if you're like this, it's very hard to consciously say just relax. If you can learn it, it's a great discipline, and I congratulate you. I know people have done it.
Yeah.
But it's hard. A lot of things that I've learned in healing is that you're in this negative state. And everybody says, think positively, be positive.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to defeat
that's very hard to do.
the mechanisms and get skillful practices to do that. And that's a lot of what I teach. It's like, okay, it's sort of how to like trick yourself. It's almost like, you've heard of NLP,
Yeah.
It's almost like you hear of self-hypnosis. Well, these are physiological, simple, very innocent ways to change your state. and you must address your physiology. You can't do it in your mind. You know, if you can get your physiology in balance, a lot changes in the mind.
And I want to say something is one of the things that I studied, and one of the things why I knew that breathing was so huge was because after doing a lot of research, I found out that when you are sick, it's important to move your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system is very important. But when you're extremely overweight, you're extremely sick, you're extremely obese, you're laying there in bed, you can't jump on a rebounder. You can't go outside. You can't go to the gym. So they did tests where they put people in like a MRI machine, and they were testing to see what moved their lymphatic system. And one of the things that just moved their lymphatic system like crazy was breathing. So
Right.
this is huge. If you're laying there in bed and you can't work out, you can't exercise, this is huge to move your lymphatic
And by the
system
way,
and
we're
make yourself
going to
healthy.
do a few more videos. That machine, which we can't see, we'll show you at the end of the video. That's called the Chi machine, and actually you can be totally an invalid, and it's great on the lymph. But I do want to say something about a rebounder. I always say one thing about it.
This is a rebounder, right?
Well, we're going to show you that at the
Mini
end.
trampoline.
If you can, I always say if you can even stand up, you could literally do a very gentle baby bounce on a rebounder. So rebounding, I love, you know, it's one of my favorite recommendations.
Right.
So talking about moving the lymph, that's probably the best tool for moving the lymph.
Yes, I agree.
And so let's go back to the breathing, though. So the Russians were studying breathing, and Buteyko was the front runner, or the leader who came up with all this. There was another gentleman called Frolov who developed a device that helped with this breathing retraining. And the goal was to have more CO2 in the body and therefore efficiently take in the O2. So what he created is this thing called a Frolov device.
Right.
So simply put, you pour water in here,
Okay.
and then you...
It's kind of like those things that they give you after you have surgery.
I don't know.
And you have to get that little bubbler up.
I can tell you,
in order to
millions
leave the hospital.
millions of this is sold in Russia, and I'm not going to put the water in right now, make a mess. But anyhow, you pour water in here, so when you breathe, the more water you add, the more resistance. So now what you're doing is you're increasing resistance gradually, and the more effective you become at
Let
breathing...
me show that to you guys. It's kind
Okay.
of, it's just like a
Then-
little...
yeah, the water goes in here. Now, we're going to get to the principle of CO2 reuptake and resistance. This is the key principles. So you continually add more water to create more resistance. So what happens is every time you breathe out, CO2 goes into this
so
chamber.
you would breathe in and out
Yes.
into that?
Now this uses the mouth, and people say you should breathe through the nose, but this is just about resistance and getting CO2 more effectively into the system. So every time you breathe out, your CO2 comes into this tube, and it's actually some CO2 is retained.
Okay.
So when you breathe in, and as you increase the resistance, you're bringing back some of the CO2. I call that CO2 reuptake.
Okay.
So now the CO2 is you're actually bringing back more CO2 into the system instead of getting rid of it, which then in turn allows more efficient receiving of the oxygen. So as you continue with the practice, you increase the resistance, and you can take less and less oxygen in, or have more resistance, and basically efficiently start to receive.
Gotcha.
So you're getting, in other words, you're training yourself to breathe much more efficiently.
Right.
But key to that is getting that CO2 in the system to cause you to let go and relax. It's kind of like if you're an athlete, everyone knows, you know, I had a tennis coach who used to say tennis is a game of relaxation. Anytime you tighten up in anything you do, it becomes much less efficient. So same thing with breathing. So that by getting the CO2 back with each breath, you're essentially learning to, even though you're in a sense stressing to take in less oxygen by more resistance, you're letting go and relaxing. So now you can take in wee bits of oxygen and breathe efficiently. That's how the yogis did it. They essentially learned how to pretty much breathe hardly at all.
Right.
Yet they were receiving incredible amounts of oxygen per breath. Now the problem with
It goes into that whole breatharian thing.
now the only problem I had, I'm using this device, and you got to sit there, and you can't do this, and you can't do anything except sit there. It's about $35. You can get it, I think, somewhere online.
And I hate those things because it's like I said, every time I had surgery, I was given that, and it just brings back, it ties in all that. Yeah.
So I saw something online about this. It's called the elevation training mask.
Okay, now this is a pretty cool little mask there.
Training mask, it says on there. So to make a long story short, it's the same principle. I was reading the Russian site, and and again, it's hard to understand through his broken English, but he was describing the fact, the different devices, and he says, oh, with this you get the CO2 coming back in. So I called the owner of the company, and he said, look, I want to prove to you that my device is better than this. So he sent me one, which is very nice. And I did evaluate it and try it, and essentially does the same thing. But the one big difference is you can walk, you can run, you can do anything you want.
How long?
So the mask goes on.
Daily basis?
Well, let me just show you first. The mask goes on like this. And that's it. So you can go anywhere, do anything, and you don't have to worry about. Now this also does have resistance, and I'll show you in a minute how it works with the resistance. You increase resistance in this device by adding water, and in this device here, it has these valves. So I'm on the last setting, one little hole.
So these little valves that are on the front right here.
So now this, let me just show you. This is, now these holes are blocked here. You have 4 holes here, and then you go down to 2 holes and 1 hole. But when you first start, there's a little valve here that will actually go like this, which lets in air from both sides. This is an outtake valve, basically. Okay. So these are the 2 intake valves right here.
Okay.
So when you start, you can intake from 2 sides.
Intake through the sides, outtake is through the middle.
So you can intake, when you start off, you can come in through both these holes.
Okay.
Now, you also have 4 openings in this valve here when you start. So this is the maximum amount of intake you can do.
Right.
Now let me
see if I can get these up closer. So you'll see that these only have like 2 little holes, and then these have like 4 little holes.
And this has 1 little hole.
And this one only has 1.
But when I first started, now they call this an elevation training mask. It mimics long distance runners that would go, or athletes that would go to higher altitudes to train, and essentially train with less altitude.
Right. But I've seen that. There's been firefighters that are using this to learn how to use their mask better. There's Marines that are actually using it to train better, and there's even boxers are using it to get more stamina and breathe better when they're boxing.
So yeah, that's this company markets to athletes, basically, sports performance. The Russians, on the other hand, it's all about health. So that's a bit of an issue I have, because I've talked to the company, why don't you get on the health side of it more, but that's not what they're about. That's not where they're, maybe they don't want to.
That's why we're here.
I mean, maybe they don't want to get in trouble with the FDA, I understand, but we really want to get to the nitty-gritty. Forget what the marketing is, let's get to the core concept. So you're essentially just, you start off with 4 holes and air coming in through both sides. Then as you get more efficient, you go to 2 holes, 1 hole, then you turn one of these valves around. So now you're breathing only through 1 hole, and you start again with 4, down to 2, and the ultimate setting down to 1. And then if you really want to breathe maximally efficient, you just breathe with all holes covered, and then you're like enlightened. Okay, so that was a joke. That was a joke. Then you're not breathing. Okay. Because if you one way to test the mask is cover the hole, and you'll get suction and nothing's coming in.
Right. I think like breathing through a pillow.
So basically, it took me about 2-3 months to get to the most efficient setting, which is 1 hole.
And how often do you do this a day, or do you need?
Well, let me just step through it a little bit more here. So let me.
2 on one side and 4 on the other. You can do that?
This is blocked off, actually. This is blocked off. It wouldn't matter what I would. Oh, actually, you know what? You should use 1. I'm sorry. Good point. When you come out, actually, some will come out. It won't let anything in, but it'll let out. So now what's happening is I'm having out coming through 2 holes.
Okay.
So Okay, so you can read more detail about the training mask, and the manual is very clear, by the way. But let's simplify it. The key is you're restricting, less air coming in, less oxygen, but you're getting more efficient. So essentially, then when you take the mask off, you know, it's like, wow, you're breathing.
Oh, I bet. You can probably breathe forever.
Right. So you're training yourself to effectively work the respiratory system, the muscles, but also to essentially get that vasodilation and allow everything to come in. So when you start off, you do it. You're really doing it more. I mean, I don't do it as much. I don't need to do it as much. But basically, until you reach the final setting, you're gonna do them almost every day. Then the maintenance might be, just physiologically, we're talking now. The maintenance might be twice a week. But here's what's really cool about this, and this is what I want to emphasize. If you're feeling a lot of anxiety, then everything's tightening up. So let's talk about emergency medicine for psychological PTSD, fear, anxiety. That's about half the population.
I find it horrible.
I mean, I'm talking about just typical anxiety, stress. So if maybe you're not freaking out, but it's still affecting your health. So if you're feeling stressed out and you're aware of yourself being stressed out, this is like a toolkit for things to handle stress. If you put the mask on, it'll take about 10 to 20 minutes most.
What it takes is Xanax. The same it takes
Right.
Xanax.
Speaking of which, I had a friend who was on Xanax and Paxil, and I sent him one of these, and he went off all his medication.
Yeah.
Panic attacks big time. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be the only thing, and it helps obviously if you do supportive measures, and that's why we're going to do videos on a lot of different things you can do. But the first thing is try to get your physiology straightened out. Get out of that, what they call state.
Right.
So now there's another thing you can do. You can take a little water. So you're stressed out. You put on the mask. Please don't ever overdo the resistance. Make sure it's comfortable. So you're not trying to, again, be macho, like let me go to the next setting.
Right.
When you feel like you're not, it's just like you're breathing normally and you're not feeling any resistance, then check out the next level. If it's too much, go back, and you'll go back and forth a few times maybe if you're in that state, and eventually you'll go to the next level.
It's like any exercise. You do too much, you got to pull back. And
Now here's a little trick. You take a little wad of cotton to further assist with the relaxation. Put about 4 or 5 drops of, let's say, lavender oil, your favorite essential oil. Now the referral device actually has a little place, where is it? I forget. They have a little thing you can put in here. It's a little container where you can put some essential oils to increase that. Everyone knows about eucalyptus. Opens up the lungs. So if you have breathing problems, take a wad of cotton, dump 4 drops of eucalyptus oil on it, throw it in here, and it won't get in the way.
Right.
And that,
easy to clean.
Right. Oh yeah. You use a little disinfectant wipe to clean it. And if you're the only one using it, you're not going to have to do it very often. If you were sharing it with family members, get those wipes, clean it out. Okay. So anyhow, you throw in the wad of cotton with the essential oil. So if you're stressed, let's say, but you don't have breathing problems, try lavender or one of your, you can look online at different like relaxation oils.
Right.
I like juniper, for instance, a very nice oil. If it's really distressed, in fact, I've been having a little tickle allergy thing in my lung, and I've been meaning to do a vaporizer with some eucalyptus. But it doesn't bother me that much, and I have, but I'm going to do that. I've been a little reticent in my self-care. So that will help with further relaxation, and that's a really nice, lavender oil is very relaxing.
Yes.
Okay, so that's
now these are, like you can see here, it's kind of plastic inside. It's almost like a pilot mask, right? That they wear.
Right. Oh,
so these are different sizes.
Right, but let me say one other thing to go back to this. This is called the dead chamber space. This is where the CO2 is coming in here, and some is leaving through these valves. But the next time you breathe in, there's CO2 in here coming back into your body. And this is the resistance. Same thing as this. CO2 is in this chamber, and then you have the resistance with the water. With this, CO2 is in this chamber coming back in. And yes, it comes in different sizes. if you have a real big mass, this is a medium size, and you're a little person, you're going to bring back in too much CO2.
Right.
So they're sized according to really they say by weight, but actually you have to assess.
Size on this is very, very important.
Right, but you have to assess actually it's really body cavity size. I mean, you could have you could be a natural 5'10", like a 5'2" person that's overweight, but your body cavity actually is pretty much doesn't change. So even though they go by weight average,
right,
the idea is to have the proper amount of CO2 coming in for your body cavity size. Now there's another issue is, let's say you have you weigh 500 pounds, but you got a tiny head. You get the large mask won't fit.
Right.
So you have a bit of so you're going to maybe not have the most optimal CO2 reuptake for your body cavity size, but it won't work if it's if you a large mass. So I need to assess what size fits you.
And if you wear glasses, you can't wear them while you're using.
Yes, you can, but you put this on first, and you kind of got to fiddle the glasses on top.
Okay.
So let's say you want to watch TV, yes, but your glasses will be hanging a little or whatever. But put this on first.
Yes or no?
You don't sleep with this.
Should not.
I mean, no, because you don't want it on for like more than, I say a half hour.
You might not wake up in the morning.
No, a half hour, I'd say. 20 minutes to a half hour. You know, you could do like 10, 15 minutes a couple times a day if you have a lot of stress. But basically, no, you're not doing this long term. Now, if I find, by the way, one of my favorite things is sometimes if I'm waking up, say I have some bad dreams, it's 3 in the morning, I'll just even hold the mask like this for about 2 minutes.
And that would be great.
I actually take, one thing we're going to talk about is chakra work. These are called nano wands. I hold a few of these over several chakras. It's like putting myself into a meditative place. So immediately the breathing starts to relax. I hit a few chakras, and you change state. And learning how to change state would be another term for meditation. It's this is a very good to have on hand when any time, you know, a lot of people sometimes wake up with bad dreams or something.
Now, I'm assuming like with firefighter, they tell you not to have the beard because it interferes with that. So I'm assuming beard or facial hair would interfere with that.
I used to have a beard. It was fine. If it's a big old beard, you're going to have to either make it tighter or put on I think you can put on like a lubricant of some sort to kind of make it seal. If you have a huge bushy beard, it might be a problem. I had a fairly trim beard. It worked fine. I didn't have to do anything. Oh, one other thing I will mention. Be prepared for this. These bands can stretch out, and then you have to buy a new sleeve. This is the sleeve, this cover.
Yeah, and they do sell sleeves separate.
Right, and you know, as much as if it's new within 90 days, you take a picture, send it back. It's a bit of a hassle, but they'll send you one for free. But you might have to replace these sleeves ever so often. Sometimes the Velcro wears out, and it's just the nature of the beast. Very minimal cost for the therapy it's giving you.
And the mask is how much?
The mask is $80.
And that's across the board.
Yeah, everywhere you go.
It's $80.
What I'm offering is, I'm offering a discount. It's really good to have a consultation and go over various strategies just beyond the mask. So I'm offering a discount on a consult.
If you buy the mask.
If you buy the mask.
I'm going to be buying one, so you guys will be able to hear my breathing, because I'm going to be using it every day.
And we can kind of go over the protocol a little bit and go over other measures. The thing always is, there's never a one-shot wonder solution.
Exactly.
However, this is there's some very core practices that really help long-term. This has never let anybody down. And you put this in your arsenal, you're going to start making headway.
Yeah.
And so let's see.
Yeah, because my channel has never been about rah, or, you know, or do the exercise, or do the, it's about, you know, it's the whole balance thing, because it's not just one thing that's going to get you there. It's not, you know, it's the minerals, it's the body work, it's the breathing, it's just everything.
And by the way, I'm looking here on my blog to see if we missed anything. Yeah, please read the blog. It's very simple.
Yeah, so we'll be putting the link below on the blog so that you can read it and make your decision about getting it. Like I said, I'm going to be getting one for sure, because my breathing is still, my lungs.
Now, oh, by the way, I want to get back to that core principle of the restriction. This is so important. So if you can start thinking about what does restriction do? I mean, the key is to stop that process of constriction. So there's different approaches to doing that. Try to be mindful when you're getting in a state of like this. One thing, a simple technique I teach is, if you notice you're like this a little bit, you're at work, you're typing, take a break and exaggerate that tension, and then let go. Now, the key is, instead of being like this, this is an exaggeration. When some people walk around literally like this.
I was walking around like that.
But let's say you're walking around just like this. What you really want is like this. So you're trying to train yourself to actually flex. So the nervous system flexes, the muscles flex, everything moves. Meditation is actually when everything starts moving in rhythm.
Right.
So there's an actual rhythm that we all have, and in bodywork they call the craniosacral rhythm.
Right.
And let me just allude to that real quickly. The yogis learn to breathe basically 3 cycles per minute. So that's 10 seconds out, 10 seconds in, equals 3 cycles a minute. Turns out that the craniosacral wave in bodywork is the same cycle. So there's actually a global rhythm. If you're stressed out, this is the place you want to end up. You want to end up in this slow out.
Ebb and flow.
But guess what's happening in that? That's ebb and flow is more than breathing. It's actually a cosmic rhythm, and every part of your body, when it's tuned properly, if it's tuned properly, literally every part of your body, your bones, your muscles, follow. It's like riding on a wave.
Yeah.
It's in music they have a term called the groove. So your musicians know what it's about to play to the groove of the rhythm section. This is the body's fundamental groove. It's actually the meditative physiological state that is literally happening cosmically.
It's like that ocean.
It's actually like a flower opening and closing. So in the body, literally, so every bone actually has an out cycle and an in cycle. And it's quite incredible. So this totally is parallel, or it's the same thing. It's just the breath part.
Right.
So when you're like this, it's like you're like a log in the water.
Yeah.
You're not going any which way. You're just bouncing on top of the water.
Because there's times I'm writing emails and I'll be like this, and all of a sudden I'll let my shoulders down. I go, wow, I wonder how long I was like that. You know, they're just sitting there, just all tense.
So you will become, the more you practice healing and relaxation, we're going to show you other things. You're going to give back to yourself, because here's the other thing when you're in a state of stress. Your mind says, I'm under attack.
Yeah.
And when your mind says that you're in attack, you stress more. So you believe the thoughts and you believe the physiology. If you change, now if you're, some people can change their thinking and say, oh, I'm fine, nothing's, and the physiology might change. But if you change the physiology, then the thoughts can start to change.
Right.
So that's really important to literally, I call it training yourself to peace. This is boot camp. This is training.
Yeah, it is. It's like going to boot camp and learning everything, and how to re-eat, how to re-breathe, how to relive, how to, keep the toxins. It is. It's like total health boot camp.
So these are like, think of it, we're laying the groundwork for practices to help you start to support getting your mind relaxed, allowing nutrients in, allowing oxygen in, and by the way, last week we talked about the water. If everything's like this, the water's going to have a hard time permeating and getting through. When you start to relax, the water's going to work better because it's going to get deeper into the body.
And the minerals from
Right.
the week before that.
So this improves everything. Just like I say, the water works the other way. It sneaks in and gets the more oxygen into your cells, which allows for better function of the cells. That's a different delivery system, but water is so permeable it can kind of sneak in even when you're stressed, and then that helps you relax more too.
And I had somebody commented underneath my video, well, distilled water is cheaper. Well, yeah, $30, 89 cents, yes, but what is your point? That it's better? It's not better. Distilled water.
Well, distilled water is another whole nother.
It's a whole. You're comparing ground beef to oranges. There's just you can't. Because you're adding so much with this water. That's not what.
Well, that actually points to the there's a lot of misconceptions about breathing.
Right.
Look, I myself had it, so I had to retrain my thinking. It's tremendous amount. I mean, I studied water for 30 years. When I found out about the Blue Z water, it was like, oh, whoa, because I never knew it was possible to do what they're doing. So people, have a lot of there's so much marketing around different things, and you get so confused you don't know what to think.
Yeah.
So really, at the end, as far as that goes, just read the site, read those key points, and really meditate on what they've accomplished with that water is amazing.
Yeah.
What they accomplished, this is so simple, and that's another thing. Healing is actually getting back to simplicity.
Simplicity.
And you're gifting yourself back to an innocence that more childlike innocence. Yeah. But we've made things very complicated.
In the beginning, I read a book by Patrick McEwen, and it's called "Close Your Mouth." And I was because he says you're not supposed to breathe with your mouth open. You were supposed to breathe with your mouth closed. And I was shocked. I'd be sitting there watching TV and going, "Close my mouth." Close. How often I was like over breathing and breathing with my mouth open.
There's a lot of rules. I will say this: you won't have to worry too much about the rules if you do this practice, and you don't have to be perfect. I mean, even the Buteyko people. I mean, to do it, would you rather train yourself in a more easy way and get there, or do you want to sit there and be in school and like, oh my God, I'm doing this wrong?
I want the easiest way.
Even eating, we get into all these rules. I always say, it's kind of ironic. Every rule is made to be broken. If you do a lot of great work, people, you're going to find that you can break some rules.
Yep.
So it's not about rules. It's try to understand the core principles. What is driving your disease? What's driving stress? Really think about more process. So, the greatest athletes like Magic Johnson, they said in basketball, he could just see the whole court. He's not like, he's really having that vision. You got to get the big vision, break it down, and rethink, because we're so taught to think about this disease, that disease. You do this, you do that.
Just focus in on this.
Got to get the big picture.
You've got to get the big picture of everything, and that's what I'm trying to do on this channel. Show you the big picture, of it all, because it's not just one thing that's going to get you there. It's just not. I keep telling people that's not the one thing that's going to get you there.
And one thing, I have a lot of reference on my site to the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono teachings. So just real quick to allude to that, because this is about consciousness work. The original teacher, the inspired teacher, her name was Morna. She's like a saint in Hawaii. So she starts off describing how you have to sit with your inner child and then sit with the fear, the anxiety, the stress, the PTSD.
With illness, fear is huge.
Okay, but she says, okay, you have to be gentle, and really, this is a laborious process. But the next step is breathing. So the breathing practice, you're trying to get yourself, basically what she's saying is you got to learn to relax before you can do spiritual work. Yeah. And this is this is in massage school, they said, you can't heal if you can't relax.
Right.
So again, if you're like this, you can't let anything come into your system.
Both the practitioner and the.
So your mantra in your being has to be, I am creating, or I am responsible or partaking in this process where I'm creating barriers. How do I learn to relax and let go? But if you think I should let go, you're going to stress yourself out even more, because the shoulding will make you more stressed. So the question is finding successful techniques that naturally make you relax.
Right.
You can't make yourself relax. Relax, kid.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. I know my mother had a massive heart attack, and I went to her doctor and I told her, I said, how do I stop this from happening to me? He goes, relax. I don't care what you got to do. Meditate, learn to breathe, sit in a sauna, whatever it takes. That's what you got to do to stop this from happening. And it's true.
Now, the final, the more, now here's where it gets interesting. If you train yourself to relax, I think you get a long ways. The next step is, the final frontier to me is the program, learning about how the mind and the micro program. Some people will call it the mental body, but you're reacting to programming, and the problem is, and this is really the real end game, where the hell the program's coming from, how do they work? How do you respond? I mean, this is really where it gets into the deepest levels.
Right.
Because, you know, it's like telling your computer that has a virus, you know, I'm going to reboot it, it'll be fine. No, you reboot it, it still has the virus.
Still has the virus, yeah.
So this is a definite important step to help you get to the next step, which is to deprogram your consciousness. And that is a teaching unto itself. But once you start learning how to, this is a preparation for that work, basically. So think of the yogis again. They did breathing practice. Was that all they did? No, they meditated.
Yeah.
And if you look at Buddhist practices, you have very elaborate meditation systems.
Right.
Then you have this word called karma. What is karma? Well, the modern word for karma is programming. And it's very subtle, and as anyone knows who comes from a generation, let's say, of alcoholics, or they see the same tendencies, there's something to do with the fact that these programs go long back and they repeat.
Yes.
So you cannot heal a program in stress, but stress by just relaxing alone is not enough. So you have to then go further and then study how to get deep into consciousness clearing. And by the way, that's a whole challenge.
Because I get a lot of people on my channel that sit there and say, well, where did you get this information? And where did you learn this? And what I'm bringing on this channel, and then why I even have you here, is because it is what we know, what we have actually tried, what has worked, and what we know. Everything else has been programmed. Just because a study says, hey, this worked, how do you know that? That's just programming. This is stuff that we know has worked. It worked every time we tried it, and it's worked on other people. And that's what we're bringing to you. Everything else, programming.
Well, I mean, in a way, it's all programming.
Yeah.
But what you want to do is set yourself up. Ultimately, I mean, if you truly can relax and you're at peace, in that moment you're not programmed.
Yeah.
However, something pops up, there's the program. Now what do you do? So, in a sense, deprogramming goes on forever.
Yeah.
If you're at peace, you don't worry. It's when the stuff hits. Now, the key is, can you look at yourself and see how you're co-creating and supporting the programming process?
Right.
This gets into like a whole nother territory, but essentially what we want to do is set the stage to help us deprogram. And people, you never stop. Programs keep coming. Yeah. They come and they come and they come. So the better you get at, first of all, calming the body, grounding the body. That's why we're going to talk about these little nano wands and the chakras. There's that chi machine there. These are all regulating your physiology. Actually, with these, I think within the chakras, now you're starting to do that cleaning, the processing. It's very mysterious how you get the mind to let go and get cleaned. It's not in your control. You're setting a stage for a process.
Right.
And this is hard to, most people want to be in control of everything.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, they do.
So, but let me tell you, I mean, I would say I didn't come from this I always say I think women are more able naturally to let go. They're trained more naturally to be allowing of different emotions. Yes. Men in general, especially my generation, were trained to be, very unflexible emotionally.
Yeah, don't cry, don't take on anything, don't get upset.
Right. Just get angry, that's okay.
Yeah, just get angry, You can throw things and get
angry. Be macho, be in charge.
Right.
But I mean, the ability to, find practices that, and if you're a woman, maybe you're too all over the map, or you don't, whatever it is, everyone has their issues. But the bottom line is, how do you create this real regulation, good groove, right, and then you can go a little deeper and look at those programs that are causing you to get out of balance. Right. And once you do that, you start to transform. Okay,
so basically, if you're interested in getting the mask, it is called Training Mask 2.0 Elevation Training. And like I said, you can get it on, the best place I found is on Amazon. And it doesn't matter who you order it from because it's $80 all across the map. And Andrew is, if you're wanting the extra help with the mask, or to learn how to breathe, or get out of that PTSD or anxiety or panic and all that stuff you've got going on, get in touch with Andrew. We'll put a link under this video, and he will give you a certain percentage off the consultation so that he can help you out and master this little thing a little bit better.
All right, if you want to buy the mask from me, just click on the link there. Buy now.
Yeah.
But I would like you to email me just to make sure we get it right.
Right, because you want to fit your cavity.
Email me a picture of your head, your body, and write down your body weight, and then I'll make sure we get you the proper size.
Because if you look at the comments in the Amazon, the biggest problem that they're having is actually fitting the mask to the facial cavity. So Andrew can help you out with that.
And also, if you're suffering with some serious issues, let's get a few things in motion.
Yeah.
Just to work with the mask.
Call him, whatever. Just call me. I'll put you in contact with him. Whatever. It doesn't matter as long as you get some help for yourself and get out of that state of mind, because you need to be happy and you need to be healthy. So till next week, once again, please guys, love and respect one another. And Andrew, thank you once again for helping me out here.
And here's to relax breathing.
Yes, here's to relaxation. Till next week. Bye-bye, guys.
Take care.